the reality is that, can you put 5 calls on your calendar every single day? So you're not dealing with the fulfillment, you're not dealing with the marketing, you're not dealing with the nurturing or any of the systems, you're just doing sales. When you decide to start your own business, you are adopting every single one of the things that I just said. But be ready to probably make less money for a considerably long period of time, and then make sure you're good at what you're doing, because if you're not passionate about it, you might as well just wake up every day and take a couple sales calls and be the best at it. If you're gonna start a bakery, start out of your kitchen. Make sure people like your food before you go spend $180,000 on a location and an oven. And it's like, doesn't matter what you're doing, there is a way to test the market. If you're looking to get into a business, I would ask yourself, what are you passionate about? Or what are you good at? Because it's gotta be one of the two. And then identify a problem that exists in your marketplace that you can solve better, right? Every single person that has ever built a successful company ever, they have an idea of what the solution is or what the product is or what I want to do from a macro perspective, but nobody knows what to do on the micro. You're just winging it. But it's the people that show up, and it's not like I know how to do it, I'm not lying. It's, I know I can figure it out. Like, I know I will be able to work through this problem. No matter what comes up, I will find a solution, because that is who I am. I am a problem solver. There is no problem that cannot be solved.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rep to Owner. We have a very special guest with us today, Joe Staiber. He is the CEO of Tampa Entrepreneurs, the largest entrepreneur group right here in Tampa Bay. He's been featured in over 100 different media channels, as well as Fox 13 and an ABC morning show. Joe, it's very nice to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joe. Talk to us a little bit about your first sales role. How did you go through and pick that versus anything else you could have picked?
Yeah, I think I kind of fell into sales. Like, I didn't, wake up one day and start actively looking for a sales role. I kind of fell into sales because of the way I was raised. My dad was a business owner. He was in sales his whole life, managed sales reps. And so when I got, to the age of like 13, 14, it was like, I want to go to the store. I want to go out with my friends. And my dad would make me always do things to earn money. And obviously, like most kids, I tried everything. I did the lemonade stands. I sold sneakers. I literally remember even at one point sitting out front of our beach house in Ocean City, New Jersey, with a binder full of Pokemon cards, trying to sell them to random people walking down the street. So I was always kind of like in sales, just with like trying to find things that I could resell or make money with. But my first sales gig was for myself. So I got into e-commerce back in like 2016, 2017, built a couple successful stores, was doing the drop shipping thing. I had seen that online, and I was in college playing Division II ice hockey. I had no time for a 9-to-5 job. So I was like, how do I make money from my dorm room? And so I started kind of drop shipping some stuff, backpacks, camping gear. My first successful brand was called Mountaineer Gear. And long-winded story without going down the rabbit hole is, because of the success of the e-commerce brand, I started getting asked to speak on stages, educating others on e-commerce, Facebook ads, building a brand, things like that. And what eventually happened was people at these events would ask me like, hey, I know that you're doing this for your own company, but would you run ads for my e-commerce brand? Can I pay you to just do the ads for me? And so without even really ever anticipating the beginning of an agency, I kind of fell into like the agency model. And my first experience with sales was like sales calls for that agency. I did that for quite a while. So again, without going down the rabbit hole, did the agency for a bit. COVID hit, we kind of twisted some things up and changed the business model a bit. And I went more into like lead generation in its entirety versus like just focusing on Facebook ads or like online marketing. And when that started to take off, I realized like I don't have the time to do the fulfillment, to do the marketing, to do the sales. Like, I had to bring in somebody to start doing sales for me. I had never trained somebody else on sales. So at that point in time, I was like, you know what? Let me take a year and go work for another sales company and learn what they do. How do they hire? What does the setting process look like? What are the script? How do they train you on the script? What's the difference between a setter and a closer and like a team manager? And so I went into that company. It was a kid named Caleb Maddox. Not sure if you're familiar with Caleb, but he was a superstar at like 16 years old. And he was managing all the sales for Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Brian Page, a lot of these high ticket offers. And so I called him, and we had met from some previous events that I had attended. And I kind of just asked Caleb, I said, hey, look, to be transparent, I'm not looking to come in for a long-term gig. I have a lot of sales experience for myself. I'm a very good closer. I'm literally coming in selfishly to be your best rep for a short period of time and learn exactly what you do, and then I'm out. because I want to bring what you're doing inside your organization into my current company to build out a sales team. And so joined Caleb as a setter, spent my first 2 weeks just setting calls for him, dialing 400 leads a day, just trying to appointments for my closers, and very quickly got moved up into a closing position. Did the closing for, 3 or 4 months. And then by probably like month 4 or 5, they asked me to actually manage the entire sales team. So I did that for about another 2 or 3 months. And the second I felt like I had a pulse on what that looked like, I, politely shook his hand and said, hey, I'm out. And then I went back to my current company, AutoScale, and started building out a sales team for.
Amazing, amazing. And when did you start AutoScale again?
So I started AutoScale was probably late 2022. So the marketing agency was from like 2020 to 2022. And I was marketing specifically for e-commerce brands. When COVID hit, I saw an opportunity and I decided to start selling masks on Facebook. And so before it hit the US, I don't know if you guys remember, do you guys remember when we were literally hearing stories about people dropping dead, in China and all these crazy, the world was in a panic and it hadn't hit the US yet. And I saw an opportunity, fear sells, right? So I created an e-commerce brand called Stealth Mask. It was a KN95 mask that had designs on it. You could get replaceable filters and I would sell them for $35. And I was getting them for maybe $5 or $6. And then what I would do is I would offer a discount if you bought 2 of them or 3 of them and you buy them for the whole family. So we were getting a crazy average order value of $150 to $200. And I think I launched that company, it was probably March or April of 2020, right when COVID was starting to get to the US. And I think within our first week, we did $15,000 or $20,000 in revenue, just absolutely crushed it. Then Zuckerberg passed a law that you could not sell PPE product. You couldn't price gouge because there was a huge product, there was a huge, what's the opposite of a surplus? There was a huge, there was a limited supply of PPE product, to say the least. And he passed this law, but he didn't reach out to the companies selling PPE and give us a warning. There was no hey, you have 24 hours to stop marketing with us. It was just passed the law. I woke up the next morning and I don't know if you're familiar with Facebook ads, but there's different types of an account, right? You have your account, your profile. Then you have your business manager, which is where you would house all your different ad accounts. And then you have an ad account, which is associated to a specific business. So if I have 2 companies, AutoScale and Tampa Entrepreneurs, for example, I have an ad account for each one and they both manage ad campaigns for different audiences. But the business manager is owned by me and they house both of those ad accounts. That makes sense? And so there's different types of red flags or bans that you can get. You can get an ad account ban, which is let's say AutoScale is marketing 100% legally, but Tampa Entrepreneurs made a false claim or something crazy. They could shut down the Tampa Entrepreneurs ad account while the AutoScale ad account would stay up and running. Then there's a ads manager ban, there's a business manager ban where every account in that, account is banned. So even though Tampa Entrepreneurs didn't do anything wrong, if AutoScale did and you got a business manager ban, I would not be able to run ads for TE. And that's a long-winded way of saying that I received what they call a business manager ban or a profile ban because of Stealth Mask. So one company that I had violated the policy with unfortunately shut down my ability to run ad campaigns for every single one of my clients. And so overnight, my business, probably at the time, I don't know the amount of clients I have, but I know it was about $50K in revenue that I had to refund to people because I couldn't manage their ad accounts. And it kind of was this epiphany moment of I thought I found the holy grail of being able to provide value for businesses, but within an instant, my entire product was shut down. And I realized I can't offer somebody a service that's completely dependent on one variable changing and now my whole business is kaput. So that kind of prompted me into looking into what other forms of lead generation and marketing is out there, right? There's social media and organic marketing through a personal brand. There's cold calling, there is, networking events like a Tampa Entrepreneurs event. But what really intrigued me was cold outbound. So email automation, LinkedIn automation, things that a lot of people were saying were washed up, dried up, dead, didn't work anymore. I was there's gotta be a way. And so I had found some softwares at the time that allowed you to kind of automate that process of outreach. which eventually later got, even better when AI came out, because you could kind of, get around the security parameters of Google and these different tools. And so lead generation ended up becoming like my new offer of like, hey, look, we'll do ads, but we're also going to build an omnipresent marketing channel for you so that you have predictable revenue, whether it's from email, LinkedIn, Facebook ads, other forms of advertising. I didn't want any of my clients to be tied down to one stream of lead flow. And that's what kind of prompted me into AutoScale. So that was probably around 2021. I started building it out. 2022, like officially launched it. And AutoScale is scaling your company on all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And when did you make the transition to adding Tampa Entrepreneurs? How did that story?
Completely separate, right? So Tampa Entrepreneurs was really birthed out of like a passion project. So I had mentioned that when I got into e-commerce, I started speaking at like different events around the country, right? So like I was educating people on Facebook ads, on sales. And I guess let me back up. So when I began the e-commerce thing, I was just kind of documenting my journey. I remember like Gary Vee talks about like, don't create, document. And so I was just kind of documenting my process with building out stores and finding a winning ad set, and this store failed or this product failed. Let me try a new one. And so my following, which was not big at the time, it was probably 2,000, 3,000 people, had asked me like, hey, how are you making money with this? How are you able to do this? And I had dropped out of college took a semester off at the time to travel the country. I wanted to kind of live off the road. I was staying on my pickup truck, camping in all the different national parks, and I was funding that through e-com. And so all these people started reaching out, hey, how are you doing this? Can I pay you to teach me? And I didn't want to be one of those people that had a course, but I was like, there is money here. Like I should build a course. And so I did. And I had this student, his name was Vovites. He's very successful today. He was like 16 years old, this little Russian kid, just hungry, man. He really wanted it. And he takes my course, he pays for my consulting, we take a couple coaching calls, and within about 3 months, he's making like $20,000 to $30,000 a month, which was even more than me at the time, just absolutely crushing it. And he got the opportunity to speak at this event called NetCon. And I was like really happy for him, but also kind of slightly jealous,
You're
I
like,
was
what about me?
I literally taught you everything right? And so I called Vova and I said, hey, can you connect me with the guy that's hosting this event? And he connects me, and the guy that was hosting the event kind of blows me off. And he's like, I don't really know who you are, nor do I care. Thanks, but no thanks. 2 weeks later, I'm getting lunch with a buddy named Phil McCarthy. He's a big fitness influencer over in Pennsylvania. And he goes, hey, dude, I really want to share this opportunity I got. I'm going to be speaking at this event called NetCon. And I was like, bro.
You're like, what's going on here?
I was like, bro. I was like, connect me with the owner. And so knowing that I've already been connected to the person hosting the event, I asked the second person to connect me. And then finally, the guy calls me and he's like, look, you're the second person. You've had 2 people now refer you. Let's hop on a call. I want to get to know you. We hop on a call. He really likes me, asks me to come speak at the event, finds out that some of the buddies that I know from like other events that I've attended, like I'm friends with. And he's like, can you help me get Casey Adams? Can you help me get Brody Kern? And so I ended up bringing in some other speakers. He asked me to do all the marketing for the event, all the paid ads, to do the ticket sales. We crush it. That person was Simon Lerner. Simon is my co-founder of Tampa Entrepreneurs. So Simon was hosting these business events at like 17 years old. And this was in New York. I was living in Philadelphia at the time. And I remember I spoke at that first event, and I thought it was a disaster. I was talking so quick. I wasn't slow. I wasn't good with my words. And I got off stage literally thinking to myself, like, I blew it. I'm never going to speak at an event ever again. And I literally walked out to like go cry. Like I was miserable. And I walk out, and like a whole herd of people followed me out into the pre-function area. Can I take a photo? Can I shake your hand? Can I ask you a question? And it was like the first time in my life I'd ever kind of felt like, wow, like people actually see value. They want to talk to me. And it made me feel really good. But 2 of those individuals asked me to actually speak at their event. Like, hey, I have an event coming up. Will you speak? And so one door opened, another, and then another. And by the end of that year, I had spoken on 20 different stages all across the US. Puerto Rico, LA, New York, Miami, Tampa. And one of the events that I was asked to attend, not speak at, was an event called Social X. It was right here in Tampa. And I went, me and Simon were there. I got to see Simon again. And, Simon had started to fall in love with the city, but we ended up going back home. COVID hits. So COVID hits. I just went through what happened with my business. So I'm kind of in this weird place. And I had been attending at least 1 or 2 events a month for the entire year before, being around all these incredible people, these like-minded, smart, young, hungry entrepreneurs. And then I would go back to Philly and I'd be in this like toxic environment. And so I really didn't realize how much those events were making an impact on my life until they stopped. COVID hit and they all stopped. So my speaking career comes to a halt. I'm not able to travel, go to any of these events. And I kind of, not depressed, but like I fell into this like weird like shadow of a time period during COVID where I was like, I need to be around people like this more. Simon calls me October of 2020, or yeah, that sounds about right. He calls me in 2020 and he says, hey, I just moved to Tampa. A couple of the other people that you know from the events that you've spoken at live here. You should come down and visit. I would like to see you. So I came down, stayed with Simon for like 4 or 5 days. I fell in love with the city, moved here like a month later. And it was probably about 1.5 years that we actually lived in Tampa, just like having a nice entrepreneurial network and, growing off of each other and being hungry. But what really changed things for us was when COVID kind of completely was over, I was asked to speak at another event. And I was asked to speak at an event in Mexico, Playa del Carmen, Mexico, in the middle of the jungle. It was this weird retreat. It was like a vegan retreat. There was no electricity. There was no Wi-Fi. It was just like you in the middle of the jungle for 6 days with like 50 entrepreneurs. It was awesome. But most of the people at this event were from this town, from this, city called Scottsdale in Arizona. And I was like, wait, there's 50 of us here. Like over half of you are from this one place in America. Like, do you all know each other? How do you know each? And they were like, we're part of this group called Arizona Entrepreneurs. And I had never heard of this before. And I was like, that's really cool. So I started asking questions. Needless to say, it's completely different than what Tampa Entrepreneurs is. Like business models could not be any different, more different. However, it inspired me of like, wow, there's this really cool community of close-minded people in Arizona. I want to either be a part of that or I want to build it. And so me and Ryan and Simon all attended that event together in Mexico. And when we were there, we literally said to each other, we have 2 options. We either move to Arizona or we're going to build it here. And I remember I came home that week, and that was January of 2023. By March of 2023, we had our first event. So I went home, I acquired the domain Tampa Entrepreneurs. And I really thought to myself, like, what is my vision here? What is my goal with this? And it wasn't to make money. It wasn't to try to, I make money is the main thing, right? Most people build a business to try to make money. I did not do that. I was doing well with my other companies. Ryan was in cryptocurrency. Simon was in Airbnbs and stock trading. None of us needed it to like be financially successful. It was done selfishly off of how do we meet really cool people? How do we get around other like-minded individuals? And so our first event was truly just let's invite out 100 of the people that we know that are close friends, bring them out to this Airbnb and just share our vision and see if people resonate with it. And so that event was in March of 2023. We shared the vision for what it was. And we told people very clearly, hey, we're not going to market this. We're not going to run ads for this. You all know 1 or 2 really genuine, hardworking people. Just invite them to our next event. And our next event was in June or July of that same year at American Social. We rented out American Social for the night. It was like our first real event. And we went from 100 people to 400 just off of word of mouth. And that was like the first event we really got a chance to show people what we were, because it wasn't just a house party. We had a budget, we had raised 15 grand for it. And so, we had a Fiesta 360 and there was free food for everybody and everybody got a drink ticket upon arrival. We did headshots. It was on the water, red carpet. And when people get to go to an event and meet incredible people and they get a free drink and the food is free and they're getting a professional headshot and they're going to have the time of their life and watch the sunset on the water, you're not going to go tell everybody you know about that event, And so that was my business model of like, I don't view every other event company still to this day. I think a few people in Tampa are catching on, but to this day, most event companies go, hey, I have an event. It's $150 a ticket. Buy a ticket to my event. And you guys, being the consumers, would purchase a ticket that allows me to then cover the expenses of the event. That business model is so flawed. And if you talk to most conference owners, even like the growth cons or those companies out there, most of those events are not profitable off the ticket sales. They're usually losing money on the ticket sales. What makes it work is a high ticket offer on stage, or they're selling you a $20,000 coaching program, or they're upselling you on this or that, or a room, or it's not a sustainable business model. And so my business model, when I approached it, was let's find a way to do this without selling the attendee anything. We'll give them everything for free. And my vision was if you put 400 business owners in a room, I can go get a sponsor for a lot of money to get in front of that community. And it's a win-win-win for everybody. The attendee gets a great experience. We get the funds to put on the event, and the sponsor gets the awareness and the attention of those 400 eyeballs that are in the room. And it worked. It worked out really well. And what we said to the community was very simple, because they all would ask us, how can we support you? We feel like we should have to pay for this event. Why was it free? And the only ask was, look, if you need a marketing agency, there's a marketing agency that made tonight possible. Go chat with them. If you're looking to purchase a home, go chat with that real estate agent. They made tonight possible. It was, don't support us, support the people that made this possible. And the sponsors came back and said, we've never sponsored an event that was this successful. Like, people were excited to come shake our hands and say thank you. And they wanted to learn about what we're doing. And that to me was like the golden ticket of like, we cracked the model. We figured out what works. And we went from American Social to the airplane hangar. We did TE Takeoff 1. We had 750 people at that event. That event, we raised close to $50,000, almost a 3X from, from American Social. Then we did Motor Enclave, TE Full Throttle was our next event. That had like 800, 900 people. And it just continuously grew. We did Sally Marr. We did The Art of Connection at the Art Museum. Then we went back to TE Takeoff. We did Toluminous. We just finished up Full Throttle. So we've done about 10 events now, but every event has just gotten bigger and better because 1, we learn, 2, our team expands, and 3, we're bringing more high-value people out, which commands a higher sponsorship price and allows us to do bigger and better things. So it's been really cool to watch it just kind of skyrocket over 2.5 years. But I guess to sum it all up, it was never our intention for it to get this big. Like, it was genuinely just, how do we get around cool people? And then when we realized we filled a gap that Tampa really needed, I was like, wow, we should really kind of maybe not make this our side gig and kind of prioritize it a little bit more.
Continue it.
And it's just been a really fun journey.
Well, super thankful that you guys did start it because I personally have made so many great connections through it. Ian and I met through the TE Talk event, and just seeing what you guys have done within the community and the people that you've brought together to not only collaborate, but do business together, the sponsors. It's been wonderful to see how you guys have
Thank you. What was your takeaway? Because you've been to the main events and then you attended TE Talks. What was like the takeaway from TE Talks? Because that's a newer model that we're starting to roll out. I'd be curious.
To be honest, TE Talks was one of my favorites.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it because it was focused on not only networking, but learning.
Yeah.
So the speakers you guys had on, everything we were learning about AI, the people that I got to connect with and talk with, and it being more focused on that aspect over it being a party and socializing in that way was very refreshing. It was nice to know to get to go to something that, that
was kind of our vision with it, right? Was, we like doing the big networking events. Originally it was 4 times a year and then we were like, all right, 3, and we might go down to 2 just because it's so much time and effort to put these on. But the goal was to build a community. And I feel like we've accomplished that goal. Like, we've built a really strong community, but a community can only be as strong as the relationships within it. And if you're meeting 2 or 3 times a year, you're not really building super strong relationships unless you're nurturing those handshakes outside of the events. And so we were like, we want to create more touching points. We want to be able to provide more value, bring people together more frequently that actually wants to, they're not just there to take a red carpet photo or to have fun for a night. They're there to actually network and meet, like-minded people. And so we started pulling the community. What do you guys want? Do you want pop-up events? Do you want like speaker series? What kind of works? And by far the most resounding answer we got was, we want to learn. Like, we know there's lots of experts in Tampa. We want to learn. Let's do some speaker series events. And we created the concept of TE Talks to create an ecosystem that was a little bit more intimate, that had speakers, we could educate people, and they'd meet more frequent. So that was our first one, which was back in September, almost 2 months ago at this point. And it was our MVP, right? It was like, does this work? Do people like it? Is it going to be a hit? Feedback has been phenomenal. I appreciate you sharing. And then starting in 2026, so, month and a half from now, those will be monthly. So we've got 3 that we're working on right now. Our first one will be January 15th. Tickets are out for that one. We haven't released it publicly to the Instagram page, but it is live. And that's going to be called TE Talks, The Viral Blueprint. So our last one was on AI. This one is going to be on how to take your brand viral in 2026 and leverage social media to build a loyal following that turns into a customer base.
I think there's something special with learning as a community as well, especially like the gray waters of the AI event that you guys went through on. I think a lot of people feel fear around that idea, and being able to come together as a community, especially when it's based around your hometown, like Tampa, and be able to learn that together where it's, okay, cool, we're bringing these industry experts that can show you how to do basic automations or really in-depth ones. Okay, this is who you can go through and connect with and hop in, and coming from a source that people trust.
Sure.
Because you guys have created so many connections like we never would have met. Rep Owner probably wouldn't have come to fruition as quickly as it has.
Yeah, this kind of was birthed at TE. Here we are. So that's awesome.
But I'm excited to see like where it goes with.
Thank you. Yeah, the AI thing was I'm big on the no fluff. Like I've been to enough conferences where it's like, you got to wake up every day and want it. And, like you woke up and that's worth more than $1 million. So act like it. Like I like that stuff. It's cool. It makes you feel good, but it doesn't move the needle. And so at this event, I told our speakers, I was like, look, value bombs only. I want people to walk out of that room and be like, I don't even know where to start. Like there's too much.
That's exactly how I felt.
And it was, a lot of people were like, it was information overload, but it's not meant for you to just sit there and immediately know everything. It's like, no, these are the things you need to be aware of. This is what's possible if you're leveraging this properly. Whether it makes sense to you or it doesn't, you can do this. Here are the step-by-step processes. And like everybody was like, dude, I had like 10 pages of notes. I got to go home and like meditate on this literally because it's so much. And that's the goal is right to not just, bring the community together like yourselves, but also to empower you guys, to educate you guys and to help you guys become, the best leaders you possibly can. I always say information is there's too much of it, right? Like I can go on YouTube and find anything I want, but I also have to be proactive about that. I have to care enough to sit down, know what I'm looking to research. Like a lot of people that came to the AI event, they would have never known to look up the types of workflows that we were talking about. They didn't know that it existed. So those events can be really helpful to like, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't know what to research or dive deeper into until somebody teaches you about it. And so I was really hoping that would be like a catalyst moment for a lot of people to start leveraging AI in their businesses. And then same thing with viral content. Like TE has done very well with like our content game and how we're promoting it because we've brought in experts to help us with that. I don't know that. I'm not an expert in social media. I've done well with my personal brands and followings, but like I'm not an expert in scaling companies, through social media. So bringing in somebody like Anthony Bertonson has been huge for us. I don't know if you guys have heard of Hammy TV before. He's got over like 18 million followers. He'll be speaking at the next TE Talks event. So we're bringing in the best of the best because that's what our community deserves. And it's like, hey, you're still going to get the networking element. You can still meet cool people, but we want to make sure you're leaving filled up as well. And it's like, what can I go implement next week to help move the needle in my company?
I think a cool part of it as well is it puts everyone within the same context, right? It's like everyone's learning together and they're learning, okay, how does AI work or branding, like that.
Learn from each other too. And
that's perfect.
The conversations that were sparked out of that were very impactful. And it was a wide range. It's like how to use AI in so many different areas of your business. So looking forward to the one in January.
Thank you. And you're right. People were scared. I remember like, we were talking about the future of it. And it does scare people. And for the record, it should. Like our world's going to change a lot through AI. And that was part of the reason of like, this needs to be the first event because people need to understand how to use it, how to get ahead of the curve, not to lose your job to AI, or if you're in an industry where you're going to be replaced, like being able to pivot before it's too late and just kind of understand how the world is shifting. The internet changed the world entirely. Social media became a thing, right? Imagine a world without social media. That was only 15 years ago. So we're going to say the same thing in 15 years with AI. Like imagine the world without AI. And so it's scary, but it's made by humans. So if we're ahead of it and we're smart about it and we learn how to leverage it versus like just avoiding it entirely, I think we'll be.
I think that's the impact too, is making sure to leverage it and learn about it instead of avoiding it.
Yeah.
Because when you ask, the normal person about AI, it's like minimum knowledge to it. So how to implement it, I think.
Yeah. Even Jay said like, if you're a doctor, right, and you don't learn how to use AI as a doctor, you'll be replaced by AI. But if you're a doctor that knows how to use AI as a tool, you'll be the best doctor in the world because it's still going to need human input. And so I believe that's very true is like maybe your industry will be affected by it, but if you know how to utilize the tools properly, you're going to be
on top of it. You'll be on the top of your field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very cool.
And for you, obviously you have the agency of Tampa Entrepreneurs. Where does Joe want to be 5-10 years from now? I don't know. Just go for it.
I have an idea. I love traveling. It's always been a passion of mine. I definitely see myself making enough money to have the financial freedom to do what I want and for my family to be taken care of. But I'm not the type of guy that wants a ton of money. I want to have a comfortable life. In an ideal world, I'd have, a house in the mountains with like a ranch and like some livestock. And then I'd have my beach house, in Florida or Hawaii or wherever else. But I want to travel a lot. I'm very big on like wanting to kind of detach from the majority of society. I think right now it's nice to be tied in with people and to build and to have fun and, live life. But I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Genuinely speaking, I would love nothing more than to have my closest people and just F off to the mountains somewhere and have the world forget I exist. But the other side of me really wants to inspire and lead others. Like I definitely see myself getting into, I don't know if God will ever bless this, but if it could ever get to the point of like being like a Gary Vee or like an Ed Milet or Jordan Peterson, something that's inspiring and educating the youth and the next generation of leaders, I definitely think I have a passion for that in leading. So I don't know where God will take me, but I'll be obedient to that, whether it's, that side of things or literally going and disappearing. I think I'd be just as happy with either. So we'll see. I've always said one door opens the next. Like when I started in e-commerce, I had no idea I would have an agency. I had no idea I would then do a lead gen company. I had no idea I would start TE. But a door opens, I see an opportunity and I walk through it. And if I like it, I'll keep walking. And if not, I walk out and go to the next one. And so I don't like to pretend like I know exactly what the next 20 years are going to look like. What I do know is that family and friends are very important to me. I could give less of a crap about their notoriety or the success. And if I can have the best of both worlds where I can live in a secluded life and still make an impact, that'd probably be ideal for me.
I think I remember you saying that at a creators event in downtown St. Peter recently about your connection, just being with nature and how that helps you recharge. What are some
100%.
things that you do that help alongside that with running your business?
As little as possible. Like truly, I said, on that stage, I try at least twice a year, I try to do a trip, up into the mountains somewhere. It could be Montana, it could be Colorado, it could be the Appalachian Mountains, it could be my hometown up in Pennsylvania. But I just want to be outside. I want to connect to God's creation. There is nothing more peaceful than just being in nature. I don't know what it is for me, specifically water, like running water, like creek, lake, ocean, doesn't matter. Something about it just completely calms me and I just can block out all the distractions of the world. And I just love it. I don't know if it's my DNA, my ancestry, or how I was raised, but there's nothing more than I love than just walking in the woods, finding a spot, building a little campfire, hanging out, watching the sunset. Like it's just fun for me. I love that stuff. So
I think
that's
as
what I do.
Humans in general, it allows us to recharge
Yeah.
and get connected with nature and God. And
how
just
long has
everything.
it been that we've been inside like this? Human beings, what, 200 years, 300 years, where we've been like completely isolated from any sort of environment. Like when was the last time your foot touched dirt or grass? Probably like weeks. And that's just so uncommon for human beings. And I feel like we've lost touch with that. But it's no wonder so many people are depressed or they're high anxiety. It's like you're staring at a screen all day. You're in fight or flight constantly.
Under fluorescent lights.
You're literally under like a state of hypnosis. Like that's what social media does to you. You're in a state of hypnosis constantly. And you look at anybody's screen time, and I'm not judging because mine's not great either, but you look at anybody's screen time, I guarantee it's at least 7 hours a day. And it's like you sleep for 8, that's 2/3 of your life. You're just in a trance, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's great.
Disconnecting is important. Important. What other habits do you use in your business kind of help push you forward when you're going through maybe tough times or making difficult decisions or transitions?
I mean, it's a numbers game, right? So the numbers don't lie. I think the number one thing you should be doing is tracking your numbers, especially like you're talking about sales, right? So sales is numbers, right? How many dials did you do? How many appointments did you set? How many meetings did you actually take? What's your close rate? Right. And if you're not tracking that weekly, it's hard to look back and go, well, how did I do this week if you don't know how you did last week? And so for me, it's a numbers game of like, what did we do? What was the output? What was the input? And if there's something that's not adding up from a revenue perspective or a client success perspective, I can go back and look at the numbers and go, well, this is why. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, our TE event. Toluminous was our most successful event we've ever ran, even being 200 less tickets. We did $60,000 in ticket sales. Event was sold out 4 days before the event even started. You had to buy a ticket to the door for like 3 times the price. Event was slammed. This event, we did more in sponsorship revenue. We released more tickets, and the event was still a smashing success. I want to give us credit for that. However, we did less in ticket sales, and we did not sell out until event day. And so I was like, what went wrong? What was different? And I started dissecting all of the different variables, views on social media, all the different promotional posts we did for Toluminous versus all the promotional posts we did for Fast and Furious. Was there a difference? I looked at the ticketing pages. How many landing page visits did we get for Toluminous versus how many did we get for TE Fast and Furious? Almost double. So, when you look at these different metrics, we go, okay, this is why. We generated more website traffic. More website traffic leads to more conversions, leads to more ticket sales, leads to more revenue. And, then I was like, all right, well, why didn't we get as many landing page views? Went back to the content, compared all of the promotional content between the two events. And I noticed that the last event, we had more views on our content. Not because it was better content, not because we did more of it, we actually did less. The major variable was that I did not drop a commercial style video. This event, it was just me talking to the camera versus doing a very hype style video that everybody shared to their network. That one video for Toluminous had over 1,500 shares, over 1,000 likes, and over 400,000 views or whatever it was. So not having one video played a massive role in the success of an event campaign. And so I would have never known that had I not looked at the numbers. So everything to me is a numbers game. The second answer to that question would be systems, right? Like you need to have systems in place in your business. And I'm learning this now. Like if my team members are watching this, they're laughing because, for the longest time, I was like, nah, it's all up here. I don't need the systems. I don't need it. I know I'm on top of it. I've got a pulse on everything. And I did. We would be successful. However, everybody else was confused. Joe, what do I do? How do we do this? And I'm like, it's up here. So they got to call me. And so now I'm spending way more time and energy on things that I shouldn't have to. And I'm like, why don't they know by now? But it's like, I've never given them a step-by-step instruction manual on what to do in what scenario. So after our Toluminous event, I sat down and for 2.5 months went apeshit on just how do I systemize every single component of our business, from the second an event is decided and creating an SOP of like when an event is decided, sponsor deck is created, must be done with these 8 steps within a week. Second sponsor deck is done, it goes to sales. Sales follows this SOP to dial and schedule appointments. Once they take a sales call and they close it, this is the SOP to onboard them. So collect payment, send this contract template, upload the template to this Google Drive,
Just dialed in.
Literally the most minute detail, you know.
But once you have that in place,
And this event was like probably the most seamless we've ever had because nobody was calling me 8 times a day. How do I do this? What do I do? Can I get your approval? It was no, follow the SOP, and everything was in there. So now that we have all these systems paired with a task management tool so that I can go in and see all the outstanding tasks, how many are overdue, how many are not overdue. It gives me a pulse on the company and our performance without ever having to even call a single employee or team member. And that has allowed me to really manage things a lot better. So sales is numbers, a business like TE is a lot of systems, but also numbers. It's just about figuring out what your KPIs are and staying on top of them. Because if it's just like you acting off of intuition, you might feel great one day and bad the next. And when you're feeling bad, you're actually outperforming yourself the day, you know what I mean? It's confusing. So you got to keep things simple. Numbers are simple. No, I sucked at math. Actually, that's not true. I really liked math up until algebra. They started putting letters in that shit and I was like, yo, I'm out. I don't know what's going on.
We're done.
But no, I've always been good with math. I've liked numbers, but I don't like thank God we have Excel sheets and ChatGPT and all the other stuff out there because I don't want to do that stuff. I just want to look at the numbers and analyze it and go, even with a Facebook ad, right? And hey, we spent, $170 on this ticketing campaign. We were getting tickets purchased for this last event for $3.19 a purchase, which is unheard of. I've managed millions in ad spend. I know what I'm doing there, but like even seeing that we were selling, a $50 to $200 ticket at $3.19 a piece is like unheard of. But I know that because I can track the metrics. What's the cost per acquisition? What's the cost per purchase? What's our CPM? And just knowing what campaigns are performing well, what to duplicate, what to turn off, you can refine it, make it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a nerd for the numbers.
I love it. It has to be. And it's a numbers game, like you said. As far as for sales reps that are looking to start their own businesses, what is something that you would recommend they do when they're first getting started?
Can you ask the question again?
For sales reps that are looking to start their own business, what is something that you would recommend that they do when they first are getting started? I know you said systems was something.
Ask themselves why they're starting a business.
Okay, that's good. Let's ask themselves why.
So I think a lot of sales reps go, well, if I had the company and I would make a lot more than 20% commission on my sales. And so a lot of people want to get into business because it's a money thing. It's like, oh, I can make more money. But the reality is that can you put 5 calls on your calendar every single day? Do you have a product or a solution to a problem that is going to generate, because if you're a sales rep, right, I can't speak for everybody, but most sales reps, they wake up in the morning and they've got calls on their calendar and they show up to the call and they close the call. And that's it. They're not in charge of generating those leads. They're not in charge of, nurturing those leads. It's just, I hop on the sales call. They're already, they have an idea of what they're being sold. My job is to get them across the finish line. So you're not dealing with the fulfillment. You're not dealing with the marketing. You're not dealing with the nurturing or any of the systems. You're just doing sales. When you decide to start your own business, you are adopting every single one of the things that I just said, right? And the worst part is if you don't have a good product, everything else becomes way harder. And so I would make sure you're doing it for the right reason, because I would genuinely argue that the best salespeople in the world make more money than the business owners. My dad, he does own his own company. He started it later in his life, but most of his wealth, most of his money was made in managing and doing sales himself, either being a sales person or a sales leader, being what we call an entrepreneur, right? And leading an organization within an organization. And, my dad even says, like, he's the CRO of a company called Melillo out in Pennsylvania. And he even told me, he goes, my highest sales rep makes more than I do. And I'm the manager.
And you hear that.
Because his comp is so high. And so if you're really good at sales and you like sales, just stay in sales. But if you have a genuine problem or a solution, I should say a genuine solution to a problem that you are good at and you are passionate about, then go for it. But be ready to, probably make less money for a considerably long period of time. And then make sure you're good at what you're doing. Because if you're not passionate about it, you might as well just wake up every day and take a couple sales calls and be the best at it.
That's true. Have a clear direction on your why.
Because when you did take that year in sales, what do you feel like the highest leverage skills were that you learned that you're able to apply to your agency?
It's a good question. So for me, it was structure probably like structure and managing others, because I was very good at sales. I don't look at sales. A lot of people look at sales as like, well, you got to memorize the script and you got to know how to handle objections. And I'm not saying you shouldn't know how to handle objections, but to me, it was never like, I'm going to read off a script. It's not a robotic. To me, it was people skills. It's mirroring people. It's tonality, and tonality isn't taught. We're doing tonality right now. Tonality. And then all of a sudden you get into a sales context and it's like tonality is like all of a sudden something people forget how to do. It's like, how to talk to people, And so for me, it was always about just real rapport and relationships. If I genuinely want what's best for you, or I want what's best for you, and you can feel that, and I'm going to tell you on the call, hey, look, I don't think this is a good fit for you. If you want the product, now you're like, no, it is a good fit for me, and here's why. You're now selling me on that, or you respect it so much that you're like, hey, thank you for your time. I might not be a good fit, but this person is. I was never forcing a deal. I was never desperate to get a deal. And it was always about people. So I never did a script. I knew like the major bullet points to hit. I knew to kind of pre-frame and set price anchoring and, handle some objections before the price drop. I knew the basics, but I never followed a script. But when it came time to hire and train a sales team to do it for me, I was like, if they don't have that same skill set, and some do, great closers do, but most people, they need structure. And I didn't know how to give somebody that structure because I never followed it. And so for me, I didn't go there to learn sales, although I did get some good coaching and some advice from some people. What I learned the most was, how are they managing me? How are they training me? What are my KPIs? We have like an end of day report, right? Where every day I'd have to go in and say, hey, I dialed this many people. I had this many people picked up. I set this many calls, whatever. So they could track my success today. I'm like, that's good. That's numbers. I like that. I'm going to take that. And so for me, it was the structure and learning how they did it. But I still believe to this day, if you can sell without a script and the major points to hit, I would argue that's the better way to sell. Otherwise, a lot of times you do sound robotic. My businesses that I've always started have never required capital. I am very risk adverse. I don't like taking big risk unless I have data that backs up. And so when I'm starting a new company, like with e-commerce, right, drop shipping, there's no inventory. I just sell somebody else's product and they ship it once it's been bought. There's zero risk. If I don't sell a product, I don't make money. The only risk is the marketing spend of Facebook ads. Then with the agency, right? Like I never had a product that like there was never inventory. It was just you buy the product, I deliver it, or I take part of that money and I'll pay somebody else to help with it. Tampa entrepreneurs, right? Like the events cost $150,000, but I'm not paying anybody until I brought in the sponsors in the early days. So like everything that I've done has been very risk adverse. I've never sought an investor. I've never, tried to acquire a company. Everything I've done has been bootstrapped. And I do believe most businesses should be that way. Like if you're going to start a bakery, like start out of your kitchen, make sure people like your food before you go spend $180,000 on a location and an oven. And it's like, doesn't matter what you're doing. There is a way to test the market and get a product market fit before you go invest a bunch of money. So personally speaking, my first step in business would not be to acquire a company. I would build my own company. I'd make revenue. And then if I'm doing really well, maybe I take 10% of, like, let's just say I made $1 million, right? And I want to take 10% of my gain on that. And I want to go acquire a competitor. I want to go buy a special product to merge with mine. That might be an option, but I don't want to do that as the first step. If you're looking to get into a business, I would ask yourself, what are you passionate about? Or what are you good at? Because it's got to be one of the two. and then identify a problem that exists in your marketplace that you can solve better, right? For example, Tampa Entrepreneurs, right? I didn't solve the problem of networking events. There were hundreds of them, but they were either one of two things. They were either very expensive and hard to get into the room. You spent a lot of money, travel, or two, they were so basic and boring, like no disrespect, but they're so basic and boring. It's like, we're going to meet up at this bar and here's a name tag and like enjoy. And it's like, dude, this is boring. Like it feels weird. Hi, I'm Joe. Nice to meet you.
They're forced.
And so for me, I was like, how do we create the merge? How do we bring a new product to the market where it's the same type of appeal as like a 10X Growth Con or like a South by, like a fun networking event, but that is the price and the accessibility of one of those boring events? And how do we blend the two together? And that created a better product on the market that people went, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this. With AutoScale, there are tons of companies out there that'll do email outreach or outbound. There was nobody that was doing it within a 7-day turnaround and a guarantee on performance. So I used a bonus and a time pinch to make my product better. So you have to find what is your angle, what is the solution to your problem, what is missing in that industry that you can bring to the table. And if you identify something like that and you are actually good at providing that service, start the business. The fruits are in the people that take the biggest risks, that own the company, that, that's where you make the most money. But the safest, easiest bet is to just be a great salesperson under somebody else that's already built that vision out, that's carried it out, that has the proof of concept. And I really do argue that sales is the best thing to do when you're first getting started out, because even if you don't have a solution to a problem, you're going to be around the types of people that think of those things, that are innovating in that way, or that could lead you to that opportunity. You're the closest to the money. And so I always say, if you're going to get started out, people are like, would you do drop shipping nowadays, knowing what you know now? No, I'd go straight into sales, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to lose everything tomorrow?
Yeah, sales, 100%. It's the fastest way. It's like, I don't need a college degree. I don't need any I just need people skills, and I can go find any offer. Like if you're trying to sell $2 cups and you want to give me a 20% commission on that, I'm telling you to go pound sand, because it's like, I'm going to make 40 cents per cup I sell. But if you're selling a $50,000 coaching program and you have people that trust you and support you, or like the person running the company, for example, they're hopping on those calls ready to buy. I make 10 grand. I make 5 grand off of a 2-hour call. The cap on what I can make is non-existent, essentially. It's only bound by how much time do I have and how many calls can I hop on. And I wouldn't want to do it full time because I don't want to be behind a desk all day, but that is a great place to start, make some good money, start to invest in other assets, and meet people and learn things that are going to carry into every other skill that you do. You're selling yourself every day. You're good at sales, you're good with people.
Yeah, I think sales is the foundation to pretty much everything that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people on here that have started as servers, bartenders, just the basic level, and then gone their way into different sales roles, whether it's setters, closers. And then I think it's just that true entrepreneur spirit where you're getting started in it and you see that it all just intertwines with each other, which leads to ownership in a business if you want it to.
And then for you too, like let's say one of these sales reps, they do get to a point where they have financial stability, they find a problem they can go through and sell. What is a system that they can go through and implement in their business first that has the highest leverage, and then also in their personal life they've gone through and put in years?
I'm sorry to answer the question. So if somebody's in a sales gig and they decide to step outside of that and build their own thing, what's the first step?
The system that you would go through and implement into that business or their personal life.
Well, personal life is completely different story, right? You can hack your personal life and set yourself up for success. I mean, there's no way to answer that question, right? Every business is going to have different systems or a different way to approach it. The first thing I would do is I'd figure out what is the offer, right? What is the Alex Hormozy says, create an offer so stupid, so good, people feel stupid saying no. And that should be your goal, right? What is my offer? What am I bringing to the market? Who is it for? Who's my ideal client avatar? Where are they hanging out? And then think about like the different areas of your business that are going to be important. Like with Tampa Entrepreneurs, I had to go, all right, what are the major components of TE? All right, so we've got sales, we've got events and event planning, we've got fulfillment, which is like all sponsor graphics, design, layout, like making it happen. If we sell a sponsor 8 things, going to fulfill on those things. Then you've got your finance, you've got your social media. So I had to break down the different components and go, all right, let me systemize what I would want to do for each of these things. But systems come once you understand what your company is, what your offer is, what you're fulfilling on. Like if I'm doing cold outbound, right? Like a cold email campaign or a cold LinkedIn campaign, my systems are completely different than if I'm hosting an event for 1,500 people. Completely different. Like they could not even be comparable. And so I have to understand, what am I even bringing to the market before I can do that? So I don't really know how to answer that question.
Sorry. So I mean, it is different for each business and what stage it is, and I guess what the interest in the market is as well.
I mean, just to simplify it for any industry though, like if you're going to get into that, what I would say is, once you understand what your offer is and who your ideal client avatar is, you shouldn't really focus on anything else other than lead gen. Because before you go build a website and design a logo and spend money on Facebook ads, or like before you really go spend any money or accumulate any risk, you want to make sure that you're able to provide what you're saying you're providing, that people that are happy with it, right? So let's say I'm a marketing agency and I run Facebook ads. There's a million people that do that. So I'm not going to see a ton of success, or it's not really worth my time to go spend a ton of money building out the back end, the website, the funnel, all that, when I have my own network, right? I was watching a video the other day and they were talking about like a pastry shop, right? I think I made the example earlier. Like, I'm not going to go invest $200,000 into a location and an oven. And it's like, no, I'm going to bake from my kitchen and I'm going to go give it to people I care about. Do you like this? Is this good? Would you buy this, right? Start selling them out of my house for a bit. Hey, well, look, if you want to buy, like all the girls right now are doing like the sourdough companies from their houses. Like, but it's like their friends and their neighbors are coming over and they're buying a loaf of sourdough. And it's like, she started in her kitchen. She's getting good money. Her clients are happy. We're coming back and being consistent. All right, maybe I open up a little storefront out front, right? It's the same with a bigger business, right? You want to be able to work with a few people, get a proof of concept, get experience, get good at what you're providing, and make sure the clients are happy, and then leverage that. Like, if I do work for you and you're thrilled and I ask you for a referral, or somebody asks you like, hey, I'm looking for a marketing agency and you had a great experience, you'll refer me. And that's how you should start. And then you take that money and you reinvest it into growing and scaling. You're building out your website. My company, AutoScale, I went 2 years without a website presence, like literally no website.
Without a website.
I was doing cold email to a Calendly link to a cold call, like to a cold sales call, selling on the spot, sending over a contract, no website presence, like literally nothing. It was just me and what I'm going to provide you. And I realized that you don't need any of that stuff. Now, eventually I got one and I built it out because people wanted to see it, but it's not necessary to start a company. You just got to get across the finish line, get some money in, and then reinvest. But lead to the lifeblood of your business. So I'd be asking myself, first thing, once I know my offer, once I know my target demographic, how am I going to get my first round of clients in? And then how do I leverage that to get more?
I love that, because I think a lot of people focus on all of the other stuff first.
They do.
They
want to have the perfect
before they
launch.
You
don't even know if people like this.
Yeah, you don't even know. And they're building the back end and they're trying to get everything going.
I've seen a lot of times people get so obsessed with that they spend all this time building out the infrastructure. By the time they actually get to market, 3 people beat them to it.
Already. Shot yourself on the foot.
It's like, dude, you had a great idea. You were first and you wasted your time. And now somebody else is slinging and you look like you knocked them off because, you started late. And I've learned that lesson myself. I've been a victim of that, of like, one of the companies I ran for a little while was called News Feature. We were getting companies published in like articles online and different, publications and things like that. And I was early and I was doing well, but I kept telling myself, like, I'm going to get 50 LinkedIn accounts. I'm going to buy 700 emails and like pour gasoline on the fire. But I was comfortable and I was making good money. And within a year and a half, everybody was doing it. And I was like, if I had just went all in for 6 or 8 months, I probably would have made $1 million. But I was too slow and I was comfortable and I was like, hey, it's working, but we'll get around to it later. I'm busy with other things. And I was like, man, I missed a really great opportunity. Now it's saturated. Everybody's doing it. Can't even compete with the pricing. It's like, it's not even worth my time. And that happens to a lot of people.
So go with speed first.
Speed.
And
speed.
Yeah. That's great. If you had to start over today, what are some things you would do completely different in your businesses that you did in the beginning?
That's a good question. I don't want to say I would do anything different because I'm happy with where I'm at.
Or what are some things you do with more speed or in a different way?
I would definitely make decisions quicker. I feel like in the beginning, I second guessed a lot of the decisions I would make. Like, is this the right call? What are people going to think? Is this going to be a failure or a success? I wish I'd trust my gut a little bit more because looking back, a lot of those decisions were correct. I don't know. I'm really proud of the way I approach things. I knew I didn't know things. I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I remember like when I was in my college dorm room, a little bit of a side note, but just kind of like giving some context to like the way my brain works. I was miserable. I just went through a breakup. I'm trying to find a way to make money online. This whole e-com thing, I'm broke. I have no money. And I was acing all of my tests. I was doing all my assignments. The one thing I wasn't doing was I wasn't attending class. I wasn't going to my college classes. I remember my college professor, my English professor said, hey, you should, the drop deadline is next week. You should drop. You're going to fail my class. And I was like, what are you talking about, bro? I've aced every assignment. Like, he's like, 30% of your grade is your attendance. And I was like, so I'm spending $100,000 for a degree that I know, and I'm acing everything, but because I'm not sitting here in this seat, I'm going to fail. And it was a catalyst moment for me of like recognizing that's the future. That's my life. Like, I could be the best employee in a company, but if I'm not in the cubicle from 9 to 5, you're fired. And I was miserable with that. And I was like, something needs to change. Saw these guys online. They're doing great things. They're building e-commerce brands. They're running cool companies. And, you know, I said to myself, like, what are they doing that I'm not? What do they know that I don't know? And I literally had, I don't know, maybe $500 in my account at the time. And there was an event in Arizona called Build Your Empire, where it was a bunch of young entrepreneurs talking about drop shipping and real estate and different forms of marketing. And I just said to myself, I was like, you know what? I need to be in that room. And the tickets to the event were $500, like just to get in the room. I'm in Pennsylvania. I got to fly to Arizona. I got to get a hotel room. Like, I got to get to this event. And I was like, you know what? I have enough money for one night of a hotel and for a plane ticket. I'm going. I'll get in. I don't know how I'm going to get in, but I'm going to get into that event. And I flew out, I went to the event, and I remember I literally DM'd. I was just thinking at the time, like, what's going to get me in this room? And I DM'd a local videographer that I found through hashtags in Scottsdale, Arizona. I said, hey, I'm going to this event. I want you to film me. You're going to get access to this really awesome event. You're going to learn some really great things. You're going to meet some cool people. Can't pay you. I don't have the money to pay you. But like, if we can work together, I'll get you into this awesome room. And he's like, done, let's do it. And so I call him when I get there, and he's like, all right, I'll pick you up from the airport. He picks me up. And so I just randomly called all of the speakers that were going to be speaking at the event. And I was like, hey, look, I'm here. I'm in town. I'm like, you don't know me, but like, I know you're speaking at the event. I'll be there tomorrow. I got a videographer. You want to get some content the night before the event. Nobody hits me back, but one of them did. Her name was Melissa Vong. Melissa Vong's like, yeah, I'll come out and do some content. And so we did like a photo shoot, you know, and then after the photo shoot, she goes, hey, I'm going to dinner with all the speakers. Do you want to come?
Perfect.
Yes. Again, I know nothing. I am a nobody. I am like so uncomfortable with my shell. I'm like, I'm going to fake it till I make it, but I'm going to like get in this room. I went to dinner with all the speakers. We ended up going back to like the mansion where the event was. And then the next morning I showed up and they all knew who I was. They just let me in. So I got into the event. And that event changed my life because I learned what to do, how to do it. And I realized that these people are just like me. They've just worked longer and harder at it than I have. And that's what prompted me to go home and lock myself in my bedroom and just work on my business until Vova had the successful store. I got connected with Simon, and Simon goes, hey, those guys that Build Your Empire event, like, can you get them to speak at my event? And that was a full circle moment for me of being able to go from literally like weaseling my way in that room to now asking those same people to speak on the same stage as me at NetCon. And so for me, it was just always about like failing fast, failing forward, taking risk, and, you know, genuinely just believing in myself of like, I'll find a way. And so I really wouldn't do anything differently. But if I lost everything today and I had to restart, as I said earlier, I wouldn't go the drop shipping route or e-com. I feel like that's just very saturated. It's played out. Sales would be my route for sure. I would find the best, most successful entrepreneur I could find, and I would be the most valuable asset I could possibly be to them. Make them the most money, work the hardest, provide all the solutions I could. Even if it's unrelated to sales, how can I add value? And I would work my way into those networks until I had the ability to build my own brand again.
I love how important your belief system is in everything that you've
got to be delusional.
That is amazing.
Every single person that has ever built a successful company ever had no idea what they were doing. They have an idea of what the solution is or what the product is or what I want to do from a macro perspective, but nobody knows what to do on the micro. You're just winging it. But it's the people that show up, and it's not like I know how to do it. I'm not lying. It's I know I can figure it out. Like, I know I will be able to work through this problem. No matter what comes up, I will find a solution because that is who I am. I am a problem solver. There is no problem that cannot be solved.
It's being that overly confident and knowing that you can figure it out and be taught or learn along the way.
Like, people will come to me and be like, what are we going to do? You know, for example, 10 days out from TE Fast and Furious, we're $40,000 in the red. 40K events in 10 days. And I was like, if we don't make $40,000 in 10 days, we're going to eat through all of our reserves and we're going to basically be in debt until our next event when we can recoup that cash. And so I was like, all right, let's not panic. What can we do? And so, you know, we brought in another $30,000 in sponsorship. We did more in ticket sales. We did 10K in ticket sales on event day. Like we did very, very well. But if I had just panicked and like said like, all right, we're screwed, you know, let me go try to figure out where I'm gonna get 40 grand. It wasn't an option. It was, no, we don't have an option. There is no plan B. We either make this work or we don't. We're gonna get through this freaking event. I won't take a paycheck if I have to. Like whatever we gotta do, we're gonna get through it. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting in the trenches. I'm picking up the phone. Joe Staiber's calling sponsors now. Like,
Joe Staiber picking up the call.
Like, what do we got to do?
Joe.
Like, it's just like, we gotta make stuff happen. You know, I was like, let's give a bunch of tickets. So let's give like 50 tickets away to like friends that we know will bring a +1 and that +1 will buy a ticket. Yeah. So we did that and the tickets went up. And so, you know, whatever we could do, you know, we were prepared to do a 50-50 raffle on the stage if we had to. I was like, I'm willing to do whatever we got to do to get through the finish line. But then event day hits and we're golden, you know, we're in the green and we're happy. So, it all ends up working out, but you just got to be confident. You got to know that you're going to figure it out. And you can't be confident to the point of delusion either. Like there are times where I'm like, that's not going to work. And we can't force a square peg through a round hole. It's just not going to happen. And you got to pivot.
You have to pivot and change it, but at least have that delusion and that confidence to push through on the things.
The needle's going to move.
It's going to move. Yeah.
You know, it's just which direction are we going to move it in? So, yeah.
I think having that delusional confidence too is what really pushes the ball forward so fast too, because you're forced to keep solving problems.
You know what's funny is when I first got into the e-com space, a lot of people probably don't know this. If you guys follow me now, you probably don't know this, but I had 60,000 followers on Instagram for a while. Because I had built a very successful following up around e-com, and then my account got hacked. I never got it back. It was a whole weird thing. I had like 330,000 on TikTok or whatever it was. And a lot of that carried over to Instagram, and that's how I was getting a lot of my clients. Instagram got taken away from a hacker. It was a whole nightmare. But anyway, that's not the point. The point that I'm trying to make is that when I first got started, you would have thought I was Bill Gates. Like nobody could tell me shit. I was so confident. I was putting out content left and right. Didn't give a crap what anybody thought. I was just so confident, and people bought that confidence. It's funny because when I lost the Instagram account, I took about a 2-year hiatus from building a personal brand that I was building TE. So I wasn't posting on my personal Instagram. I still don't really post on my personal Instagram. I was focused on building a brand. And then when I was like, let me get back into the personal branding stuff, being older, I was like, I don't really know if I know that enough to be talking on this, or like, I don't know if I
now
should.
You're questioning yourself. You're
but it's like when you're younger and you just like, nobody can tell you
nothing.
A thing. I thought I knew everything, and I know a million times more than I knew then. And I'm still thinking like, I don't know if I can, really speak.
Can I be the face of this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like you almost kind of want that young, delusion of like, I'm invincible. Nobody can tell me.
No one can
anything.
touch me. I got this. Yeah.
And so you got to kind of beat that out of you when you get older, and like society puts these boxes around you and you worry what people think. It's like, that's what stops most people. Like your biggest enemy is your mind. Is like, what, I'm never going to say to your face, like, I don't think you can do it. You're not good enough. Like nobody would ever say that to you, but that's what you'll tell yourself in your head all the time. And it's like, if you can't conquer that, how are you going to conquer the world? And so the biggest advice I would give everybody is like, get out of your own reality. Like your reality is not reality. It's like, it's yours. And it's like, you're creating and manifesting these fears and these anxieties and placing thoughts in people's heads that aren't even thinking those things. And it'll stop you from believing in yourself.
If you could go back to your 13, 14-year-old self, the one that was whipping Pokemon cards, just what advice would you give him?
It's a really good question. I spent so much of my early teens and even early 20s so self-judgment. Like the self-judgment I would give myself was terrible. And I didn't talk to myself well, and always was trying to like tell myself like, you have to do this, you have to be better, you have to improve. And I really just learned I'm 26, now I'll be 27 next month. And I probably learned around 25 that like everybody is figuring it out. Nobody knows what they're doing. And like to just trust myself, to trust my inhibition, to trust my gut, and to not be so fearful of like, because it was always about like trying to get to this place, trying to make a certain amount of money, trying to receive a certain amount of status, to prove that I was good enough, right? And the reality is that looking back, like I always was, right? I just was trying, because I didn't have it in that moment. It was like in the future, but that person is the person that led to all the success. So just trust yourself. Don't be so focused on, what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. Like, just enjoy life. Don't be so hard on yourself and just keep going. There's a lot of times where, you just didn't want to keep going, or you wanted to give up, or you didn't think it was going to work out, or you were afraid of not reaching a certain level, and like so much fear and anxiety around not being good enough. And like, life's too short. And if I could give myself any advice, it would have been to not waste so much time being so hard on myself, because, what does that do? What needle does that move? How does that make the world a better place? Enjoy it. And so like social media wasn't a thing. Relationships were done in person. The world was a much different place. And I wish I enjoyed that more. I wish I knew that I was in those times when I was in them, because the world is a completely different place today. And like, I miss the simplicity of not being so focused on growing up. Just be a kid. Enjoy it.
Enjoy the moments. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Joe. It was a pleasure having you on the show and getting to hear from you.
I'm sorry it took me 3 weeks to get in here.
But we made it happen. You're busy building big things, and we're looking forward to your next event in January. And
I'm looking forward to having you guys. I love that this was birthed at a TE event. That's so cool. And I know that you guys talk to a lot of sales professionals that want to get into their own line of business. And I know that I did talk a lot about, hey, don't get into business unless you're seriously passionate about it and you have a product or a solution you want to solve. But the reality is, though, is that you are working a 9-to-5 job, and eventually you have to, if you want freedom, you have to step outside of that. Because you can say you're free all you want, because I can go to Bali and take a sales call on the beach. That's more free than a lot of people. But the reality is that you're still on a sales call in Bali. You're not enjoying Bali, or you're not enjoying wherever you're at. So find something that allows you to step outside of selling your time. Sales is, you are selling your time. You're getting paid very well for it, but you're still selling your time. And so find out what you're good at. Find out what you're passionate about. Find out what problem you can solve for a marketplace, and then be freaking relentless at pursuing it, and don't let anybody tell you different. Go all in on it and trust your gut and build a life that you're proud of. That would be what I would leave this community and group of people with.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
That was awesome.
Good having you on. And to our viewers, thanks for watching. If you want to know more about how to start or acquire your own business, visit us at rep2owner.com, and we'll see you again on the next episode.